But it's devices that use RF EMF to transmit signals that we should be most worried about. Things like your smartwatch, Bluetooth headphones, laptop, tablet, Wi-Fi router, smart TV, the list goes on. And most of us have all these things at home. It's got me thinking, I wonder just how exposed my family and I could be to radiation. I'm about to find out. Oh. I've learned that all electrical devices emit radio frequency electromagnetic field waves or RF EMF, but it's the ones using RF EMF to transmit data that we should really be worried about. Devices like our phones, laptops and routers. The radiation emitted from these devices are measured in watts per meter square. So in 2011, the WHO's International Agency for Research on Cancer defined RF EMF as possibly carcinogenic to humans, meaning it may cause cancer to us. Now, this happens when there is exposure of more than 10 watts per meter square. So I'm thinking about all the wireless devices around my home, and I'm getting a little bit concerned. I'm meeting up with radio frequency expert Professor Venkat again, this time at my house, to assess the radiation risk to my family. So I've been worried about, radiation in my home and wondering if I can, figure out just how safe it is.
Yes, we can do that, Steve. I have brought this instrument called as the spectrum analyzer. This instrument allows you not only to see the power levels, but also to see the different frequencies that are around in your house.
Really? Okay, great. Let me bring you to my favorite spot. I want to see how safe that is.
Sure.
Have a seat, please.
Yeah, I would need your help to carry this probe, and we could move it closer to the router to see what kind of signals. Yes, you're doing good. So what this instrument is now measuring is the emissions from that router, and since it's a Wi-Fi router, we can see two significant peaks appearing at 2.4 gigahertz band as well as the 5 gigahertz band, which is licensed for Wi-Fi use.
Those are the strong signals, but how much is it giving off in terms of radiation?
Yes, the guidelines is 10 watts per meter square. We see the red line on top here. That is what it means. Now, every line below that is 10 times lower than that. So if the peak value that you see here for the 2.4 gigahertz is 7.1 milliwatts per meter square. Right. And that is like a factor of at least 1,000 times lower than guidelines of 10 watts per meter square.
Okay, so in other words, what you're saying is where the red line, if I cross that, that's not good.
All the emissions across the different frequencies, if they add up together and crosses the total power of 10 watts per meter square, then it's dangerous.
But in this case, with everything that we have now,
is 1,000 times lower.
Is 1,000 times lower than that red line.
Absolutely. In this measurement, as a conservative estimate, we are doing a maximum value of how much is it emitting. It need not be emitting that all the time. It could be just a pulse that appears and vanishes off.
Right, so if you average out, it could even be less than that.
Absolutely.
So can we take a look at other places around the house just to check that it's safe too?
Absolutely, we could do that. Yeah, let's do that.
This way, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see if we get any kind of a reading. Across measurements from my living room, workstation and study room, still way below the red line. Prof Venkat found out that the readings were at least 100 times below the safety standard. So it's good to know that the house is actually really quite safe.
That's right, Steve. We have measured at various locations and we are well below the safety guidelines.
It makes me feel a lot better.
Absolutely. And besides that, as we move away from a signal source, the signal strength is going to get even much weaker. And when it comes to radiation protection, distance is our friend.
Really?
Yes. And I have set up something for you to show you that. Let's go and see that.
Okay, sure. Let's go.
So what we have set up here is a transmitter that transmits at a certain frequency of 2.8 gigahertz.
To avoid other RF EMF signals around us influencing our experiment, Prof Venkat has set up a transmitter to generate a radio signal that is not taken up by any other devices around us. At 2.8 gigahertz, this signal is at a frequency that is much higher than the typical Wi-Fi signals that our phones receive from internet routers.
So we are having the same probe that we used in your house to see what is the strength when it is up close to the transmitter, which is 50 centimeters away. and we see a value that is hovering around 100 microwatts per meter square.
That's right.
If we were to double the distance, say
Okay.
from 50 centimeters, if we move to a distance of 1 meter, then we see that almost by a factor
Wow.
of 4, it goes
Yeah.
down to hover around 25 microwatts per meter square.
Wow, that's a big difference.
That's right. In fact, when we double the distance, the power density goes down by a factor of 4, theoretically.
So if we move back one
Further
more
up.
time,
That's right. Let's say we move from 1 meter to 2 meter, we see that it goes
Wow.
as low as even below 10 microwatts per meter square.
wow, okay. So really, distance is key here.
Absolutely.
What about all of us who carry our phones in our pockets then? I've got mine here in my back pocket. That's definitely no distance at all. How safe is that?
Yeah, when your phone is in the idle mode, it is typically doing some kind of signaling, and that is going to be in a very low power mode. When you are in an active call, that's when the phone transmits back to the base station and it's going to be operating in a higher power level, yet
Okay.
below the safety guidelines.
And sometimes when I'm on the phone, after about 5 to 8 minutes, it starts getting really warm. Is that a sign that also more radiation is being emitted?
Not necessarily. The battery also emits heat, and there are other factors that can cause the phone to get heated up as well, not necessarily due to RF radiation.
Okay.
And if you're really concerned about radiation exposure, we can see from this demonstration that distance is your friend. So you can keep the phone further away, maybe have it in a hands-free mode so that you can use it with your headphones.
It's a relief to know that I'm relatively safe from radiation exposure, and that distancing myself from my electronic devices will help to reduce the exposure further. But